Hello and welcome to the Somerset Diverse Communities podcast. My name is Michał Purzyński and I am a BAME Community Engagement Officer from Community Council for Somerset. This show is about Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities in Somerset. Today I'm at the Engine Room cafe in Bridgewater and I enjoy the sunshine with a cup of delicious coffee, hoping to talk to Vienna Watts, the co-organizer of Black Lives Matter in Taunton. Hello, Vienna.
Hello, good afternoon.
I'm glad to see you in real world again. Do you enjoy the sunshine?
Absolutely. It is fair weather, riding weather now for the motorbike.
Now, England begins reopening, so I do believe you spent a lot of time organizing various events, projects related to Black Lives Matter. But before we will talk about it, I must ask you, who are you? I would like to find out a bit more about your background.
Yeah, sure. So what do you specifically want to know about who am I? I mean, this is a very deep question, Michał.
It is, definitely. I do apologize. I would like to find out, how do you perceive yourself and how you would like to be perceived by others?
Ooh, that's super deep. Okay, so I perceive myself as someone who is often misunderstood. I see myself as someone who, through lots and lots of experiences in life, has got something to prove to not only herself, but also something to prove to the world. And I think at times, sometimes my ego can kind of creep in on that when it comes to what I'm proving. But I'm also a very introspective person. And I think that because I have social anxiety, which a lot of people don't actually realize, because I'm I think that I constantly second guess myself. And I think that's given me more introspection so that I can kind of realize that, hey, ego is kicking in, so let's just pull that back a bit, As to what people perceive from me, I think people perceive me to be really bubbly, outgoing, funny, #child trauma. Humor is a massive coping mechanism for myself. I would like to think that people think that I'm strong, because I am. And I think that I've overcome a lot. But I also hold myself in a very, compared to the level of expectation that I hold on people, I hold myself to an impossible expectation. And yes, even though I'm aware of this, again, it still creeps in a lot of the time. And sometimes I can hold people to a ridiculous expectation as well. And again, it's just kind of communicating that. But yeah, I think that I want people to see me and respect me, but also know I'm an open, friendly person, and supportive as well. I can be fiercely protective and extremely judgmental. If you ask any of my friends, they're just going to be Vienna, critical. But it's because I care, and it's because I love people very deeply.
Right, so I do believe just because of you, as you said, you care, you also decided to take part in a number of different protests at the Taunton Black Lives Matter demonstrations following the death of George Floyd. What Black Lives Matter means to you and why it's important to you?
To me, Black Lives Matter is not just a movement. I think that we look at the exterior of police brutality and we look at, this kind of anti-capitalistic point of view, anti-white supremacy and stuff. That's all the political stuff. But what it really means to me as a mixed person is identity, community. I have really found my voice this year. I think it's been amazing to even have a platform where I can even voice not only how I feel about being someone mixed, but also standing for something that's bigger than myself. I've been welcomed, and not surprisingly, obviously, but I've been welcomed into a community of Black people that have supported me, that have my back. And I think that that's, again, something really important that we have to understand within the Black community, is that yes, I'm mixed and we feel so kind of out of place. We were talking about it the other day, and it's like racial identity dysmorphia, right? Like you look in the mirror and you see something completely different to what you are. And growing up in this area, like it's been super whitewashed. And like if you look at, obviously we all know the curriculum's broken, but if you think about that, for someone who's mixed, I'm never having any true contact with my roots or my own culture, you know, for other reasons that I don't really want to specify. In my home life, I wasn't allowed to really understand my Jamaican heritage or be able to express that. So I think that I look at myself in the mirror and I see a white person. I talk like a white person, like, you know what I mean? And I think that that's all kinds of messed up in itself. And I think for BLM, I've had a lot of imposter syndrome creep in. I felt like I'm not black, like I can't be talking on these matters. But at the same time, like when I really look at my life and I'm like, yo, like you've experienced racism, Vienna, and microaggression. You've experienced it all. Like but at the same time, you've had to balance this thing of, and not realizing, like you've had to balance the privilege of being like light-skinned, white-looking, white passing. I hate that. I hate white passing. Like I've had the privilege of that, but the oppression of being black, you know. And I think that that's something that people who are mixed carry with them all the time, and it's trying to find your home, you know. And I think that it's not saying that I haven't found my home. I think I found a part of my identity, obviously, within the white community. And I mean, I'm surrounded by it all the time, you know? So it's like, for me to now have contact and to be able to be kind of submerged within the black community, be around them all the time, I'm realizing that, like, you know, for example, my accent will change really, really quickly. And sometimes, and it's not necessarily, because I'm kind of code switching, if that makes sense. Like, do you know what I mean? Like how everyone has like a phone voice, but usually people who are white will call me out on it and be like, "Oh, are you trying to be black? Because you're not really black." Like blah blah blah, and it's like it's not even on purpose. I just literally like mold to that community and how they speak, but it's also a part of me and how I've always kind of spoken, if that makes sense. And it's like, but no one's judging me because I constantly code switch all the time, even when I'm around them and things like that. So yeah, I think it's totally a journey of identity, Black Lives Matter, and finding my voice and saying it with my chest and owning who I am and just not taking any nonsense.
Do you think it's needed in Taunton, and is Somerset not a friendly place for people of colour?
I can't say if Somerset is a friendly place for people of colour at this point, because do you know what? We've been in lockdown. I haven't been able to go outside and talk to the black community, talk to the BAME community, talk to POCs, whatever you want to call them. I don't feel comfortable at this point speaking on their behalf because I need to go out and talk to them myself. I think that it is still needed. Even if I were to base it on the few experiences of myself, of my mother, of my auntie, of my cousin, of, oh wow, look, it's like, you know, of friends that I know who have been POCs or black and their experiences of us growing up in Somerset, I wouldn't say it was necessarily the most friendly place, but I think that it's all behind the scenes. It's very covert, insidious in that way. It's never just an overt response of calling you a racial slur. It's always, hey, I noticed that my manager treats me completely different to everyone else, and this incident's happened, and, you know, suddenly now I'm the problem, you know? It's, or someone saying something and making you feel very excluded and is making you feel uncomfortable constantly. But they don't have to call you those words. And I always say, like, if you take away every reason for someone to not like you, so say, for example, you're at work and, like, your manager is being like this. Do you turn up for work on time? Are you wearing the right uniform? Are you doing your job? Are you doing everything, right? Because, you know, and then once you take away all of that, then you're left with racism. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's always a good way, because we're always racially gaslit. You know, it's always like, oh no, it's all in your head. It's all in your head. It's these mind games. It's like this weird manipulation, and it's traumatic, you know? So I think that, yeah, Somerset is a nice place, but nice doesn't necessarily mean safe. Nice I am actually more terrified of nice people, because nice people are the ones that are going to stab you in the back. The one who screams crap at me, I'm like, oh, okay, I know how you feel, fella. Do you know what I mean? It's the people who are nice and then they open their mouths, and I've had quite a few situations recently where I've had allies who have been like, and what comes out of their mouth is pure ignorance, and I'm just a bit like, I'm confused here. Do you not realise actually there's a lot of things wrong? And so yes, Black Lives Matter is needed here, and it may not necessarily be in the same capacity as the cities. It may not be in the same capacity as obviously like in America, but I think that having a branch, having a group here that is open to you coming to us for help, for us to know that we are made of stuff and guts to directly campaign in our area and just stand up anyway. I think that maybe that might make people feel a little bit more secure.
Right. And how it all started here in Taunton, basically. Who was at the beginning of the whole journey, and what is the condition of the group right now these days?
Yo, right, crazy journey. So basically, I'd recently found out that my uncle had been killed in Broadmoor Mental Psychiatric Hospital. It's just like outside of Reading. This is where Charles Bronson is, right? So basically, back in the 80s, obviously, black people were discriminated against, and obviously, but basically, my uncle was like really big black guy, fresh off the ship. Like, he was like, I never got to meet him, sadly, but obviously he was going to be a target straight from the get-go. And basically he ended up in Broadmoor Hospital. They said that he was schizophrenic and everything, and something had happened. It's very the news say one thing, the inquest says something different. It's all very weird, but basically the inquest report is that he was put into seclusion, and armed guards with riot shields and helmets came in. They restrained him on the floor. The doctor administered a cocktail of drugs, and he died within 2 minutes of that interaction. But if you look at the news reports, you have to go into the archives, because the post that newspaper isn't there anymore. But if you look at that, they actually report a whole different thing. So it's very iffy, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, my uncle died. I mean, that's institutional racism at work right there. And Mind UK actually picked it up. There was a massive campaign, because I said to my mum, I said, you know, why didn't anyone do anything? And actually they did. There was a massive campaign about it, trying to bring attention, because my uncle wasn't the first guy. He was actually the second, and then there was one more after that was a really high profile case. And going through all of these news clippings and kind of seeing, like, you know, my granddad saying, you know, I'm glad that my son's dead, because now he's, you know, not in that place anymore. And I knew that he was going to be dead. They said to him, they said that he was going to be leaving in a body bag. You know, so for the family to kind of go through that, for the family to go through that, it was just intense. And then my nan had died as well. The last, like, the matriarch of our family, the last person I was going to go to ask, like, questions and things about our heritage and hear those stories and have those passed down. So all of this had happened. And then George Floyd. It was all within literally a week, 2 weeks, right? So it was intense. And I saw that there was a protest happening in Taunton. A group had set up an Instagram account, BLM Taunton, and I was like, I'm there. They then postponed it, and I was like, nah, what are you doing? So I kind of contacted them. They then kind of got back to me, said that when I said, actually, do you know what, I'm going to do my own protest, they were saying that I was going to kill people, and I should, you know, that basically, do I want to be responsible for killing people? And it was got really, really weird. And I was just like, whatever. I then posted on Facebook Marketplace, Taunton, Bridgewater, Somerset. The group then took that post, they put it on their story, and they were actively encouraging people to not come to that protest. It got really weird. I was just kind of thinking, right, who are you actually? Because that's not, you don't have dibs on a movement. You don't have dibs on a protest. Like, you can't, it doesn't work like that. So basically, once I put this all on to Somerset and everything, over the 5 posts that got approved, I got about 450 comments. They were horrible, like character assassination. And at that point, my profile was like relatively open, so like you could see where I worked and you could see my friends and stuff. Like I didn't understand how bad and how nasty Taunton was going to be. I knew it was like that when I was younger, but I didn't think it was like that now at like, 27 years old at the time. I had people reporting me to the police. I had people then say that they were going to contact my work. They did. I went into work the next day and I got suspended from my job. They didn't even ask me what happened. They just suspended me on the spot. So that also got nasty as well. And so then basically from all of that, on the day I didn't know who was going to turn up. I had my mum, my auntie, my cousin. Like they were all just like, Vienna, don't go. Like it's not going to be safe. I was adamant. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I genuinely thought like I was potentially having a breakdown. But anyway, went there and that's when I met Emily. And basically she'd actually been doing the same thing. She'd been messaging them too because she thought it was really weird. So we had our protest. We had about 40 counter protesters. In the end, we had to move on. We had about 30 ourselves. I had women, children, like couples, like a mixture. And basically someone had thrown something in the end and the police were like, oh, maybe you should like move on now. Which now I look back in experience, in retrospect, I'm like, whoa, that's your job. They threw something at us. Like we could have stayed there. Do you know what I mean? So then we went to like the Vivery Park, the protest that everybody went to. And from that, we kind of met the organisers. I realised that sadly they were all white, and it also answered a lot of questions. So we set up a few meetings. They didn't really engage with us, and I think that they were just wanting to do that one protest and then back off. So we had a couple of people who were still in, but then they had uni and stuff like that. So we just literally absorbed and we were like, right, we're Black Lives Matter Taunton. And from there we kicked everything off, and that's where we stepped in and started getting everything kind of in place. Yeah.
So at the moment, how many people are in the group?
There's two of us. There's two of us in the group. One of us isn't in the country at the moment for X, Y, and Z reasons. They will be back, yes.
And are you open to everyone? Basically, if there's someone who will listen to this podcast and say, hey, that sounds great. I haven't heard of them. We would like to support them. How they can find you, how they can reach you.
So we have Facebook, we have Instagram, so Black Lives Matter Taunton or BLM Taunton. We have an email, so you can shoot us over an email as well, which is all of that information's on our social media. We also have a Just Giving, so that's BLM Taunton as well, and we're just raising, the money that we're raising is very much to go to the fact that myself and Emily was self-funding, and we kind of still, like, we've got a bit of money, so that's helped me get some bits and bobs, like a new megaphone and things, but we've been paying for this ourselves the whole time. So we were like, okay, actually we do need a little bit of help with what we're doing. It's not sustainable to do that. So there's that. We're completely open to everyone in the sense of, so we do have a bit of procedure for safety with regards to, the government kind of investigating BLM and XR. So basically we have like a normal, imagine just going for a volunteer role, application, interview, and then obviously if you can then join the team. We've got different things, so marketing and communication, we've got data and research, we've got finance, stewarding, there's lots and lots of things. I've got lots of links, and again, all of that information is online. With regards to coming directly on to the organising team, that's different. So I am very, very protective as to who comes into our team. As we kind of spoke about, which I can't speak now, before this, is safety. It's a big thing, and we need to make sure exactly who I'm bringing onto the management team. There's a very different thing. So if you're interested, absolutely get involved. Obviously, I am open to I really encourage Black people, mixed people, to get on board within wanting to get involved, also within the organising. Black Lives Matter is Black-led. It is Black-led. I'm not saying that I'm excluding white people. Of course, they can come onto the organising team as well, but the majority of us need to be Black or mixed. It has to be that way, because there's no point having a Black Lives Matter group run by white people or predominantly white people where that Black person isn't going to be able to potentially have their voice heard. Do you know what I mean? So it's very, very important that it is Black-led at the end of the day.
Right. What about the age? Is there any age limit, or what if, for example, there's a teenager who say, "Oh, I'm 16, but I'm not sure whether they will accept me"?
Okay, so different roles. So 16 and above, definite. And the thing is, if you're younger and you want to get involved, like, get a parent to reach out to us. I mean, if we maybe need some help one day leafleting, come with your parent. We can do some leafleting together. It's not exclusive. It's just meaning if you're under 16, and actually if you're under 18, but specifically under 16, we need your parents to be involved and stuff. There are consent forms even for those who are under 18. But then there are certain roles, for example, when it comes to the marketing and stewarding, I need over 18-year-olds. I have two, and that's because we're grassroots and they've been with us pretty much like along this. But I don't leave them alone. We have other adults as well, but again, that is the only time, and that's because we're grassroots and everything is happening step by step, and it's because of them I'm like, no, we need to go 18 and above. And again, just because, I mean, things could get hairy out there, and I'm not saying they will, because it's Taunton, in Somerset. We're not going to be having the numbers that the cities have, but that doesn't mean that a heckler doesn't want to start getting aggressive, especially on protest days. I have a lead steward, so that means that any issues go through then they can come to me when I need it, just to kind of filter out things. But yes, 18 and above for stewarding, anything that's going to have confrontation. We're also looking at doing Black ally training, and also looking at doing conflict resolution training as well, which is what all of the big cities are doing, and I haven't managed to get onto that yet. So and there's also Know Your Rights, so Black ally, conflict resolution, and Know Your Rights as well, because it's super powerful to know your rights. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, oh, I know my rights now.
And definitely, by all means, it's always good to know your rights and how to use them properly, especially if someone is telling you that you don't have a right to do bips and bops. But I was going to ask about your plans for this year, and what would you like to achieve in a long term?
So for this year, obviously pending with regards to social distancing, it is outreach. So I'm a youth worker, like, by trade, and I need community outreach. I want to be going out into the communities, either setting up a stand in different towns around Somerset. We were doing a survey last year, and then that's all gone wrong because of lockdown and things. So we're going to review the survey. Then I want to do just literally like a 3-question survey, and it's more so just the excuse to have the survey, but to have that stand in different towns, and again, just be there, as well as kind of contacting local organisations. I want to do more lives on our social media platforms. I want to be doing more again, outreach, celebration of Black women and Black people and Black children and Black men in this area. I think that needs to be done. But again, I can't do that if I'm not having contact, because everyone is so dispersed. So as of like 2011, it's like 2% of Somerset is BAME, but 0.8% of that is Black. I finally found the percentage.
Right. So the good thing is that this year we had a census, so I can't wait for the results. What's the statistics will tell us how that the population has changed since then.
I'm so excited. I'm really excited. I feel like it's gone up. I feel like we could be pushing maybe 1%, 1.2%. This is my bet. This is the official thing, okay? 1.2% for the Black community. But as far as, absolutely, with what we're doing in Somerset, it is literally outreach. We're going to create more events. I want the events to be accessible to absolutely everyone. And it's, again, working with local organisations, working with the councils to start kind of pushing things through with regards to education and things like that. But again, because I like doing things more, so there's kind of obviously that changing the curriculum thing, being a youth worker, I just feel like creating some form of people's assembly for the Black community is something that would be amazing in this area. Also, you can do a citizens assembly if you wanted to have the leadership from each of these communities. I think that is important, that we start mobilizing, we start organizing, we start bringing ourselves together. Again, I would love there to be some community hubs in different areas that are there to support these people. And yeah, so again, working with organisations to kind of make that happen, and being part of Unite for Black Lives, which is the national kind of group, and being with them, it just means that I have more gravitas, I have more push, I have more backing, sorry. I have more backing behind me, which means that we can push things through. At the moment, we're doing this really awesome thing where we're all supporting each other at different meetings, because quite a lot of the time we tend to be the only POC or the only Black person within these kind of meeting spaces and things like that. So actually inviting them in as guests, it also means that I or the person who's got that backing, we can feel a bit more kind of empowered to just go, oh well, actually I can say what I want to say now, you know. But also it means that they're coming in as a Black person and they're seeing how everything's working, which is what I did the other night. And I think I might have gone off at everybody, but again, it was having that perspective of just kind of coming into that space, being respectful, but also just saying, actually, excuse me, you know, there are actually a few other concerns, and just having that other person to co-sign, it just gives you that boost. So again, having that, and having that work within the community as well, because maybe there's BAME people, there's POCs like in the community that maybe need that backing. You know, I really want to be able to have I've got a case at the moment where there's a young person who's having an issue at work, and we think it's to do with racism, and she had a meeting, she had to go on her own. It's just not a very good situation, and I really wanted to be able to just walk into that meeting, go, hi, my name's Vienna, I'm from Black Lives Matter Taunton, and I'll be representing this young person today. Please address any questions, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll be taking notes, and then feed back to the main group and be like, okay, this is the information we've got. Almost, it's like a low-key union, right? But it's like just a different representation, that someone specific to you being like, you know, Black. That is my dream. That would be amazing.
That sounds very interesting, fantastic. I wish you good luck with this project, and I would be keen to find out a little bit more in the future. But now I would like to challenge you a bit. So I know that at the beginning of our conversations, you've mentioned that you want to separate that the politics, but some people basically identifying Black Lives Matter with violence, radicalism, riots, aggression, even a tool used in politics. So if someone has doubts about Black Lives Matter, does it mean that this is a person that this person is racist? Can you be anti-racist and work towards racial equality without supporting Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely not. That's like saying I'm an anti-racist and I don't, or we want equality and we don't back Islamophobia campaigns, or we don't help the LGBTQI plus community, women's rights, children's rights. You know, it goes to that all lives matter trope, isn't it? That is basically what it is. But the thing is that we all know that is merely a racist rebuttal to Black Lives Matter, because if you look at Black Lives Matter, if you look at all of the other organisations involved, if you look at the Kill the Bill official, it's a coalition of all of these organisations, because it's an intersectional issue, right? And so technically, we're actually the real All Lives Matter people, because we're literally fighting for everyone. For example, the bill affects the GRT community, Gypsy Romany Traveller community. It affects sex workers. It affects it says that it was supposed to affect like women's, but I'm not sure on that one. It affects the Black community, and there are other communities that you know, Pride as well. You know, that means that we're not going to be able to have festivals, or there will be noise restrictions on festivals. You're not going to be able to go picketing. So say if you want that tree to be saved in your local garden area or whatever, you can't go and picket the local council, or there will be restrictions on you picketing at your local council, for example. So I do feel like we are the actual, and that's why I say that argument is an absolute fallacy. But to say that you're anti-racist and to say that you don't Black Lives Matter, again, absolute fallacy. I will condemn it right now. I think that if you are an ally, you're an ally. You need to be an active ally. You cannot be passive. When we say silence is compliance, that leads to violence, that is literally what it is. Because if you are passively watching it by and say, this is performative allyship, this is performative support, this is not true support. And I've seen this the last year. I'm going to try not to get angry. I've seen this the last year. Black Lives Matter is not a political movement. And I say political as in uppercase P, as in party politics political. It is not a party. It has no, it's in fact, most of the time I'd say that we're apolitical. BLM is apolitical in the sense of, if the Tories turned around right now and said, hey, we're going to change the education, we're going to do it. Cool. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. You did it, fine. I don't support you, but you did it. And I think that's the thing. It's like, you know, or looking at like, even look at the Labour Party, look at the state of the Labour Party. You know, it's just a mess at the moment, you know. And I just think that, you know, to say that BLM is political, that's like saying, you know, Amnesty International is political, XR is political. It's not political. It's, yes, there are political aspects to it, lowercase political. I mean, social justice movements are lowercase political movements. I mean, in the sense of, yes, we have to change certain policies, we have to change certain laws in order for us to get certain things. Like with Kill the Bill right now, we're trying to ban the bill, but that doesn't mean that we have any endorsement from any political faction. And if you were a true ally and you were smart, you would do your research, and you would realize that you wouldn't be believing the propaganda that you're seeing all the time, you know. And it's the same for me. I have to double check, and it's good to double check in with what the other side's doing. I think it's good to be an all-rounder at the end of the day. So no, I say get involved with Black Lives Matter Taunton. Why are we having, you know, numbers dropping from, you know, all of the, I have, I think 1,200 people on Instagram. Where are they? Where are they to support us? Why am I doing a protest 2 weeks ago that gets 50 people? 50 people. In the summer last year, I think we had about 150 people, right? So it's like, and a ridiculous amount of support. So again, it's just, maybe you need to check yourself and understand why you're not doing more. And I know people who are shielding, working, things like that. It's not about that. It's kind of, if you really want to be involved, I'm not going to chase you. And if you want to be involved, like our posts, share, donate. There are so many other ways. You don't have to be there in person, you know, just engage with us, you know. And I think that's the important thing.
Right. So in your opinion, where are we with the racial equality in the UK? Are we going in the right direction these days? Is there any hope?
I'm laughing because we say that, right, so this is a funny question, because what have we got so far this year, 2021, okay? We've got the Race and Ethnic Disparities Report that has condemned that there is no institutional racism in the UK this year. And everyone's like, okay then. And I mean, even if you just look at one of the newspapers with Prince Philip, rest his soul, and DMX, who passed, who's the rapper. If you look, they've done like a section where he is like beloved prince of the UK, and then the other half is like troubled rapper dies. And I'm like, well, again, I'm calling racism on this. There's some unconscious bias here. Like, so no, you know, if we look in January, Cardiff, Mahmoud Hassan, he died following police contact. He was a Somali. Then we had Moeed Bashir. He died following police contact. That was a month after Mahmoud, down the road from Mahmoud. Then we have Sianda Mangaza as well. She was arrested. She's been convicted. She's been put in jail for 4.5 years for, I think it was aggravated assault, right? She has been, because basically she's 4'10". She had recently had reconstructed leg surgery and also has disabilities. She was 20 years old. They went camping in the Brecon Beacons, right? And she was racially assaulted and verbally and racially abused by 3 adults, 2 men, 1 woman. They stamped on her face. They have photos of the bruising on her face. And because of her leg, she couldn't run away. She had to defend herself. And the thing is that the way she defended herself, they barely had any marks on her because she's 4'10". recently had and anyway, the police turned around. She was failed by her legal team. They didn't push further to submit more evidence. She was failed by the court system, by the police system. She's now in prison for 4.5 years for self-defense. And so her mum, I went to a protest last weekend in Cardiff, and the pain is raw. And this, I know that Sianda happened last year, but she went for an appeal this year, and I know it is Wales, but no, it's the UK. But they tried to appeal this case in March. It was denied, even with the new evidence, and they're calling for witnesses at the moment for anyone who was there in 2019 to just basically get her out, because she's also having issues within the prison. They're only allowed to have 2 women per wing who are black. She's not allowed to play rap music because it will encourage gang violence. But the white women on the thingy are allowed to play rap music. So basically, Sianda from inside the prison is actually trying to mount a campaign against the prison from inside. But the prison guards are also not liking her because she has this backing on the outside as well. So again, no. Britain, the UK is racist. And it hasn't changed. Ever since I was younger, I look at it now and it hasn't changed. And we've got a massive fight. And I think it's getting even more toxic. And again, like I say, with this bill that they're trying to push through, that they've kind of used COVID as a cover. They did it with Brexit. They've done it with the report. And they kind of did the report and the bill roughly at the same time, because it was almost like, let's just give them mass distractions. And it's because people are blaming BLM and XR for it. And of course they are, because the thing is that people are actually listening to us. And also we pose a threat, I think people calling for the defunding of police, I think a lot of people have gone, whoa, that's really extreme. But the government's been defunding the police for years. It's called austerity, I'm pretty sure, right? So it's like suddenly now we're calling for it. They're like, no, actually, no, that's extreme. But you've been doing it for this long. No, you're extremists. We are actually technically called domestic extremists. The bill wants to change that and call us aggravated activists. And I'm like, you know what? I'm proud to be an aggravated activist. And the thing is, government, at the end of the day, if you didn't want us to do this, then you would be doing, it's not about doing what we ask, but I mean, you wouldn't be messing up this much. Surely this is a sign. If people were shouting at you, it's a sign that something's wrong. And again, to say that there isn't anything such as institutional racism comes from a system built upon racism, and they've done it to cover their back. They've done it to undermine the Macpherson report. They've done it for so many weird reasons, and we can't really allow this to kind of continue.
Right. So, in your opinion, what would need to happen in order to make a change in the UK for better?
There's so many systemic things that need to change. Let's start off with the short-term plan of banning the bill. That would be great. I would say if we can stop the bill, that is a nice short-term thing. I think we need to be looking, when I say look at the education structure, I'm a big believer in, yes, we want to teach Black history. Yes, we want more Black curriculum. But I feel like, what is the point in teaching a Black curriculum in an education system that indoctrinates the individual into a system? Because, like, if you think about it, the way everything is working right now is working how it's supposed to be working. The system isn't broken. Everyone says the system's working. It's working fine. So it's like, to change one aspect, which is then to bring in the Black education, Black curriculum, Black history in an entire institution that is our education system, an education system that we already look and say, okay, it's like a round peg trying to fit in a square box, or the other way around, like a system that doesn't really see you as an individual, it doesn't appreciate you, and let alone the fact that they're getting cuts as well. Like, there's a lot wrong with just the education system. So to change one thing isn't going to change the entire system. You need to change the way we're teaching our subjects at school. We need to understand as well that it's not about creating a specific lesson to talk about Black history. It's about understanding that Black history is interwoven and integrated into British history. That's the point. You shouldn't be having to do extra work. You should just be telling the truth. Right, so that's one thing. Then we've got the courts as well. There's lots, but courts, education, healthcare. Basically, lots of groups need to just work at trying to like work on those. So there's a lot to be done, and this is what I say, it's not going to be done in my lifetime. We have to create a succession plan so that I'm handing the torch to someone else, so that someone else doesn't have to deal with the fact that last year we started from scratch, especially in this area, because we lost funding.
Last question. So what is the one piece of advice you would give to the people of Somerset?
Listen, and if it don't apply, let it fly by. And the reason I say that, and it's super simple, is because I think everybody is getting really, really touchy when they hear Black Lives Matter. They're getting touchy when they hear people talking about racism, white supremacy, anything like that. And I think that they keep biting and fighting it. But the thing is, if it doesn't apply to you, just let it pass by you, you know, and get involved, engage with us. We're not scary, you know. I mean, that's as much as I've got really on advice. You put me on the spot there for the advice, but get involved with your local organisations, get more exposure to these communities, go to the cities, start watching stuff other than Coronation Street or EastEnders or whatever people watch. You know, there are so many amazing documentaries on Netflix and on like Prime and all of that stuff. There's loads of films. There's a bit for everybody. Educate yourself, expose yourself to cultures that are different to you, and it doesn't just have to be black stuff. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of other cultures out there. Just, you know, educate yourself and get involved. Take accountability for your actions and your behaviors, and take some responsibility for your community. Do you want to be known as racist? No, then I would assume that you would want to do something about it. So do something about it.
It was Vienna Watts from Black Lives Matter Taunton. Thank you, Vienna. It was fantastic talking to you. I wish you good luck.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Thanks for having me.